Hi, we're live, filmmaker, and I'm here with
Lisa Stock.
And I'd love for Lisa, for you to tell the audience who you are and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I am a magic realist filmmaker, and I've been working in the film industry a long time. My films have been shown in festivals and screenings around the world and on PBS. And I've known Alexia for almost 10 years, maybe.
Yeah.
My films are The Silent Nick and Nora, Titania, The Jules Verne Project. I have a tendency to take characters and plop them down into the middle of overwhelming situations. And I'm influenced a lot by painters and experimental filmmakers. So I will do large scale films, but then I also do smaller experimental video as well.
I love that. And Lisa's work is freaking fabulous.
Thank you.
So I want you to explain your photography as well. I'm going to refresh the screen because I'm getting an echo. So while that happens, talk about your photography project.
My photography it's standalone, but at the same time, it also is another way for me to experiment and take what I've learned through photography and put it into my film work. So I have a lot of, it's the same theme where I will take and you know what I'll do? I will actually post a link if you'd like to see. I have one particular album on Flickr called On the Edge of the Universe. And I think that this is a very good theme for my film work. And I think that these photographs also portray what it is that I do in my film work as well. As I said, I'll put a character into the middle of an overwhelming situation and then have them work themselves out. The difference with photography is that it's one frame at a time. And recently this year, I've started a project called M for MacGuffin, and that is inspired by 39 different Hitchcock films. And I'll also put that album up so you can see it. And we're taking one frame, one photograph for each Hitchcock film that he made a cameo appearance in. And let me take this down here. Oops.
And I'll, people who are watching the replay, I will put these links in the details.
Great. So I'm telling one story through 39 well-chosen frames. So it's like a film in pieces that way, but everything I do is helps me tell my stories when I go back to film or to video. It helps me tell that narrative in a stronger visual way than it just flat out, you know, setting the camera in front of somebody's face.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit more about, especially the stories that you want to tell?
The stories that I want to tell, they're very personal stories. I know as screenwriters, we talk about what we know about, but I will, I think that's part of being a visionary or being a magic realist filmmaker is it's about your own perspective on the world and your willingness to share your perspective with the rest of the world and to explore that and push its boundaries. So I'll take something that has happened to me. For instance, The Silent Nick and Nora is all about having your heart broken. And I wrote that after I had my own heart broken, but I took it to a literal step. And it's a story about a woman who literally has her heart torn out of her chest, but because it's a magic realist world, she doesn't die and she goes searching for it and she finds her heart again somewhere else. So the stories that I tell sort of take something internal and make them very literal, so to speak. And then that character goes on a journey to work their way out of this situation. No, Silent Nick and Nora is not a horror movie. Thank you for asking that. It's a film noir, actually, and it's a mystery, but there's no gore. I don't do that. And it's truly a love story. Titania, for instance, is a story about a woman who appears in a town, and she has mysterious wounds on her back, and she wants to be whole again. And on her journey to do that, she finds out a lot about herself and a lot about the town that she's been dropped into the middle of, and also ultimately that her journey is not going to lead her where she thought it was going to. Again, a very personal story for me, but it's one way that I can reach out to an audience. I think sometimes when you set something in a magic realist setting or even in a fantasy setting, you can reach a lot more people because it's literal in some senses, but then it's very broad in others. So an audience can identify with a woman with wounds on her back. Even if they've never had that particular injury, they can turn that into a metaphor for something that they've been through themselves. And then the deeper message of the film of healing and of perseverance comes through for them as well as for my character on screen.
We have a question. Where can I watch it?
I will send you the link. My films are on Vimeo, and I'll put this down here.
And I will also put it in the link in the details on YouTube.
Thank you. Right now, the Silent Nick and Nora, the Jules Verne Project, there are quite a few of my films on there. Titania is in development, and anyone who's interested in learning more about Titania, you can go to titaniafilm.com and learn all about the film there. We're starting to shoot this winter. And if you would like to be directly involved, you can click on Invest and find out all about how you can be directly involved with Titania.
Awesome. Now, we met specifically at a fairy convention.
Yes, that was fun.
It was fun. And it's interesting how creatives tend to flock together through similar interests, and specifically magic.
Yes.
So it's not a coincidence that we're talking here today about magic realism, especially experimental film. I'm a big, experimental film is a big influence on my life. And so, yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I just want to thank you for just being freaking awesome.
Likewise, you're one of the visionaries out there, and I appreciate anyone who's willing to break the mold. I do that, certainly. You know, I find sometimes just within one script, my narratives will go in and out of tradition. It'll be traditional and then non-traditional. I was actually writing a scene for Titania today where I suddenly decided to flip the perspective, and it works because it still follows her narrative and follows her journey, but then suddenly in this scene that gets a little bit removed from the linear narrative, we can see a little bit better from stepping out of her perspective. Seeing somebody else's perspective of her, suddenly we can really see how much how she's reacting to her circumstances. And I know it's kind of odd to flip it and do that, but I think we need to take risks, and I think that's what makes our particular medium so exciting, is that there's so much experimenting going on in film. And I see there was a question about short films, and yeah, I mean, I'm working on a film that I'll start shooting in December called Danae, and it's about the myth of Danae. And that's another one where I've sort of tossed up the narrative. It's a fictional narrative, but it's done in sort of a documentary style. And it's Danae, it's Perseus, and it's another character that I created who is this woman that pulls things out of the ocean. And there's not so much a plot happening as much as you're seeing their thoughts and their reactions to something that has already happened. And it's very short. It's only going to be about 3 minutes long, but it has a very strong point about what grounds us and what kind of holds us back from, I think, achieving everything we could with our lives. And that's, you know, so I try to flip things around. I think if you don't have to stick with a traditional narrative to get your audience to connect with your character. And sometimes when you do flip something upside down, it might surprise the audience, but it makes them pay attention all the more. And it's something really new. And then it kind of makes them open up in a little bit more raw as well. And therefore, I think that you can really, you know, grab them and get them to connect on a deeper level with your character when sometimes you give them something unexpected.
Yeah. So we have another question from the audience.
How do I get my inspiration? First and foremost, from whatever happens to me, sometimes on a daily basis. Like I said, with Silent Nick and Nora, I wrote that after I had my heart broken. With Titania, actually has a couple of inspirations, everything from the fairy tale of the Armless Maiden to Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. And I woke up this morning realizing that there are actually a lot of shades of Sleeping Beauty in the narrative as well. So she also, with, you know, my own journey of overcoming adversity and healing, which is something we've all been through. And I certainly hope that the stories I tell inspire people who are watching them. And then with something like the Jules Verne Project, I wrote that at a time in my life when I just really needed to laugh. And that is a send up to the silent film era and the monster movie era. And I just wrote that because I wanted to have some fun. So my inspirations come from everywhere. They hit you when you least expect it. And a lot of them, just, they don't stay with you, but the good ones you write down and you turn into a film.
Exactly. So I'm just going to wrap up our recorded section of, okay. So can you tell people where they can find you?
Yes, my website is inbytheeye.com. You can see here on the side my Twitter handle. That's me, InByTheEye. I'm also on Facebook under InByTheEye, and Instagram and Tumblr. And again, Titania is titaniafilm.com.
Awesome. And you can find me, Alexia Anastasio, at my website, alexianastasio.com, or at Alexia Anastasio on most social media platforms. So, and more links are below.